The mining shafts of Nexus 7 stretched endless miles into the planet's core, their ancient tunnels echoing with the sounds of pickaxes and plasma drills. Among the thousands of slaves working these treacherous depths, Marcus Jensen stood out, not because he wanted to, but because his heritage was written in his genes. His silver-tinted skin and bioluminescent markings betrayed his mixed bloodline, half human, half Lemurian. The Zushian overseers called him Starlight Scum, a derogatory term for human hybrids. They feared what his kind represented, the resilience of humanity, even after centuries of attempted subjugation. Marcus kept his head down as Overseer Kroll passed by, the hulking reptilian's crimson scales gleaming under the artificial lights. Deeper, hybrid, Kroll spat, shoving Marcus toward a particularly unstable tunnel. The Empire needs its crystallium, and your kind has always been expendable. Marcus stumbled forward, his worn boots scuffing against sharp rocks. The other slaves, pure-blooded aliens of various species, avoided his gaze. They'd seen too many human hybrids disappear into the dangerous lower levels, never to return. But today was different. As Marcus descended into the darkness, his hand brushed against something smooth and metallic embedded in the tunnel wall. His heart nearly stopped when he recognized the ancient symbol etched into its surface, the insignia of Earth's pre-diaspora space command. For 3 centuries, the Zushian Empire had claimed they destroyed Earth, that humanity's homeworld was nothing but a barren rock. Yet here, buried beneath millions of tons of rock, was proof they'd lied. Working quickly and quietly, Marcus pried the device loose. It was smaller than his palm, its surface covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift in the dim light. He knew he should turn it in, keeping human artifacts was punishable by death, but something deep in his genes screamed at him to hide it. That night, in the cramped confines of his sleeping pod, Marcus examined his find. The device was warm to the touch, almost alive. As his fingers traced the patterns, it suddenly hummed to life, projecting a holographic interface that made his breath catch. Human genetic signature detected, a soft voice whispered. Emergency beacon protocol initiated. Marcus froze, panic gripping his chest. But before he could disable the device, it pulsed once, sending a signal that would change everything. Somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity's warfleet stirred. The response came 3 days later. Marcus was deep in the mines when the first tremors began. At first, everyone thought it was a natural quake, until the surface defense alarms began screaming. Through the comm systems, they heard the panic in their overseers' voices. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown. They're not responding to, by the Emperor's scales, those are human vessels. The slaves looked up as the ceiling shook, dust and small rocks raining down. Then came the sound, not the boom of bombs or the screech of energy weapons, but a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very planet itself. It was a sound that spoke to something primal in Marcus's DNA, a sound that said, "We have not forgotten." Captain Nora Rhodes stood on the bridge of the ESS Thunderchild, her dark eyes fixed on the mining colony below. After 300 years of searching, they'd finally found proof of survivors. The beacon's signal had led them straight to this backwater world, and the scans confirmed their worst fears: thousands of slaves, including human hybrids, worked to death in the mines. All ships in position, her XO, James Hawthorne, reported. His weathered face bore the same expression as every other crew member, cold fury tempered by iron discipline. "Begin the liberation protocol," Nora commanded, her voice steady despite the emotion churning in her gut. "Precision drops only. I want those mines evacuated before the Zexians can collapse them." Across the fleet, drop pods roared to life. Inside each one, soldiers of Earth's shadow fleet prepared for combat. They wore armor black as space itself, marked only with a single symbol, a broken chain wrapped around a rising phoenix. The first pods hit like meteorites, punching through the colony's defensive shields as if they were paper. From them emerged humanity's finest warriors, people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. They moved with mechanical precision, neutralizing Zishian forces before they could harm their slaves. Deep in the mines, Marcus heard the fighting above. The overseers were panicking, some fleeing deeper into the tunnels, others trying to use their slaves as shields. But then the walls themselves seemed to melt, cutting-edge human phase tech allowing rescue teams to bypass solid rock. The first human soldier Marcus saw emerged from the wall like a ghost, armor gleaming. The soldier's helmet retracted, revealing a face that could have been Marcus's mirror, the same silver-tinted skin, the same bioluminescent markings. The soldier extended a hand. "I'm Lieutenant Dex Orion," he said, his voice carrying the weight of stars. "We picked up your signal, brother. Earth never forgot its children." Marcus took the offered hand, tears streaming down his face. All around them, more soldiers appeared, freeing slaves with practiced efficiency. The Zishian overseers who tried to resist were cut down without mercy. Those who surrendered were bound and tagged for later justice. As Marcus was led to the surface, he saw the true scope of humanity's return. Massive warships hung in the sky, their hulls bristling with weapons that made the Zishian defense platforms look like toys. Smaller craft darted between them, ferrying freed slaves to safety. But it was the sight of Earth's flag, a phoenix rising from a field of stars, that finally broke him. Marcus fell to his knees, staring up at the symbol of a world he'd thought was just a legend. Lieutenant Orion knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning," Orion said softly. "There are millions more like you out there, waiting to be freed. The Zexians thought they could break us, scatter us across the stars until we forgot who we were. But they never understood what makes humans different." Marcus looked at him questioningly. "We don't just survive," Orion continued, his eyes glowing with fierce pride. "We come back stronger. And now, after 3 centuries of preparation, humanity has returned to remind the galaxy of a simple truth: you never enslave those who invented the concept of freedom." News of humanity's return spread across the Zishian Empire like wildfire. The liberation of Nexus 7 was just the beginning. Within hours, reports flooded in from dozens of systems, massive human warships appearing from nowhere, their technology far beyond anything the Empire had predicted. In the grand chamber of the Imperial Palace on Zexus Prime, Emperor Vexthor raged at his generals. His serpentine form coiled around his throne, scales darkening with fury as holographic displays showed yet another mining colony falling to the human fleet. "How?" he demanded, his forked tongue flicking in agitation. "We destroyed their homeworld. We scattered their survivors. They were nothing but savages." High General Skith slithered forward, her ceremonial armor clicking against the polished floor. "My Emperor, preliminary analysis suggests they never lost Earth. The destruction we witnessed 3 centuries ago was an illusion." The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. While the Zishian Empire had believed themselves victorious, humanity had been preparing, advancing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Aboard the ESS Thunderchild, Captain Nora Rhodes studied tactical displays showing the Empire's panicked response to their attacks. Fleets were being recalled from frontier worlds, leaving countless slave colonies vulnerable. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. "Message from Fleet Command," Lieutenant Commander Hawthorne announced. "Operation Lightbringer is green across all sectors. The Artemis Battle Group has secured the Centauri Corridor, and the Orion Strike Force reports successful liberation of 3 major mining hubs." Nora allowed herself a small smile. After centuries of watching, gathering intelligence, and building their forces in secret, humanity's revenge was unfolding with mechanical precision. But this wasn't just about vengeance, it was about justice. In the medical bay, Marcus Jensen sat quietly as doctors examined him. The advanced medical scanners hummed, mapping every scar and injury inflicted by years of slavery. Beside him, other freed slaves underwent similar examinations, each piece of evidence carefully documented for the coming war crimes trials. Dr. Raj Patel, the ship's chief medical officer, shook his head as he reviewed Marcus's scans. The genetic manipulation they attempted, it's barbaric. They were trying to suppress the human elements of your DNA. Did they succeed? Marcus asked, his luminescent markings pulsing with anxiety. Quite the opposite, Raj replied with a grim smile. They accidentally made your human traits stronger. That's why they fear hybrids so much. Human adaptability combined with alien abilities creates something they can't control. The awakening of humanity's ancient legacy brought both power and responsibility. As the last Zishian strongholds fell, the liberated worlds looked to their saviors with equal parts hope and fear. What would humanity become now that they had reclaimed their birthright? Captain Nora Rhodes stood in the grand chamber of what was once the imperial palace on Zexus Prime. Emperor Vexthor knelt before her, his empire in ruins, his people awaiting judgment. But the scene wasn't what anyone had expected. You believe we seek revenge, Nora said, her voice carrying through the vast hall. That will enslave you as you enslaved us. But that's not why we slept. That's not why we waited. Through the quantum network that now spanned the galaxy, Marcus Jensen felt the truth of her words. Every hybrid, every human, every connected being could sense it. Their ancient selves hadn't gone dormant to hide, but to learn, to understand suffering, growth, and the true meaning of power. In the Thunderchild's observation deck, Dr. Raj Patel worked with Voss, the Lemurian scholar, documenting the awakening. The ancient machines weren't just tools of power, they were instruments of creation, designed to nurture life itself. Your people kept fragments of our knowledge, Raj said, showing Voss restored data from the quantum archives. The crystalline nature of Lemurians, it wasn't random evolution. It was a gift, a way to store and transmit quantum information across generations. Voss touched his own crystalline skin with newfound wonder. We thought ourselves cursed, forced to mine our own kind. But we were meant to be memory keepers. Lieutenant Dex Orion led teams across the galaxy, not to conquer but to restore. The ancient network wasn't just about power, it was about connection, about bringing life together in ways that transcended physical limitations. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Chen addressed the combined fleets. Ships from every liberated world had gathered, not in fear, but in hope. The quantum network translated his words into every language simultaneously, reaching every mind that wished to hear. We did not reclaim this power to rule, he declared. We reclaimed it to remember why we chose to forget. To understand that true strength lies not in dominion, but in unity. Not in conquest, but in growth. Deep beneath the surface of Zexus Prime, Marcus explored the ancient chambers with Emperor Vexthor. The fallen tyrant had expected execution. Instead, he was being shown the truth his ancestors had hidden. Your empire was built on fear, Marcus explained, his hybrid DNA resonating with the surrounding technology. Fear of what you didn't understand. Fear of change. Fear of evolution itself. But look, really look, at what these machines were designed to do. The chambers hummed with energy, displaying holographic records of humanity's first civilization. They hadn't just mastered quantum mechanics, they had understood that consciousness itself was quantum in nature. Every species, every world, was part of an intricate dance of evolution. We didn't seed the galaxy with our DNA to create weapons, Marcus continued. We did it to create bridges. Every hybrid line, every genetic combination, they're all paths back to understanding. Back to connection. On countless worlds, the awakening continued. But it wasn't just humans or hybrids who were changing. Every species touched by the quantum network began to evolve, not toward some predetermined form, but toward their own unique potential. Captain Rhodes made her way through the palace, not as a conqueror but as a guardian. The Zexians who had expected punishment found something far more challenging, the opportunity to grow beyond their fear. Your empire is over, she told Vexthor, but your people's journey is just beginning. The network doesn't discriminate. It offers the same chance to everyone, the chance to become more than what fear made them. The transformation swept across known space. The ancient machines, fully awakened, began their true work, not destroying or dominating, but building. Quantum bridges linked worlds in ways hyperspace never could. Species that had been enemies found themselves sharing thoughts, sharing dreams. Dr. Patel discovered that the hybrid experiments had never been about creating super soldiers. The Zexians, in their blind fear, had accidentally accelerated a process that was always meant to happen, the gradual awakening of quantum consciousness in all sentient life. In the following months, the galaxy changed. The Shadow Fleet became not an army but a guide, helping worlds connect to the quantum network at their own pace. Some species dove in eagerly, embracing evolution. Others moved more cautiously, learning from humanity's patient example. 1 year after the awakening, Marcus stood on the rebuilt observation deck of the Thunderchild, watching a new star system form through the quantum lens. Beside him, representatives from 100 worlds witnessed creation itself. "We remember now," he said softly, "not just who we were, but why we chose to forget. Power without understanding is just another chain. But power earned through growth, through suffering, through connection, that's something else entirely." The ancient humans hadn't gone dormant because they were defeated. They had scattered their essence across the cosmos, trusting that when their descendants finally remembered, they would understand the most important lesson: true power lies not in ruling reality, but in helping it grow. As the new era dawned, humanity found itself not at the top of a galactic hierarchy, but at the heart of a growing network of consciousness. They were no longer the first ones, they were the bridge builders, the awakeners, the guardians of evolution itself. And in the quantum dance of creation, every species, every world, every conscious being found their own path to tomorrow. The age of empires was over. The age of connection had begun. As the Liberation Fleet continued its advance, more pieces of the puzzle emerged. Each freed colony, each rescued hybrid, brought them closer to understanding the truth. Humanity hadn't just evolved during their centuries of preparation, they had begun to remember who they truly were. And as Marcus stood on the observation deck, watching quantum-shifted ships tear apart the empire that had enslaved him, he felt something stirring in his genes. Not just power or revenge, but a destiny that had been waiting for millions of years to unfold. Voss awoke in the Thunderchild's medical bay 3 days after his rescue, his crystalline skin slowly healing under advanced human medical care. The elderly Lemurian scholar immediately demanded to speak with the ship's command staff, insisting that time was running out. Captain Nora Rhodes found him attempting to draw complex symbols on his medical charts, his hands shaking with urgency. Dar. Patel and Marcus Jensen were already there, trying to calm him. "The ruins," Voss rasped, his crystal features catching the light. "The Zexians, they built their empire on top of something far older. Something they found in the void between galaxies." He drew another symbol, one that made Marcus's hybrid DNA tingle with recognition. "This marking was on artifacts in every colony I studied. The Zexians destroyed most of them, but they couldn't erase them all." Lieutenant Commander Hawthorne burst into the medical bay. "Captain, you need to see this. Our quantum scans of Zexus Prime just picked up something impossible." The tactical display showed the Zeshian homeworld, but beneath its surface, vast geometric structures pulsed with energy that matched the frequency of human hybrid DNA. They weren't just buildings, they were machines, waiting to be awakened. "Those aren't Zeshian," Voss whispered. "They're human. From before." Admiral Chen's hologram appeared, his face grim. "All fleet commanders are reporting similar discoveries. Every major Zeshian installation was built on top of these structures. They've been using our own ancient technology against us." The revelation hit the room like a physical force. Humanity hadn't just evolved naturally, they were returning to what they had once been. The Zexians hadn't feared what humans might become, they had feared what humans would remember. Deep in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vexthor accessed forbidden archives that hadn't been opened in millennia. The data crystals showed truth that his ancestors had hidden. When the Zishian species first achieved space flight, they found the galaxy already bore the mark of an ancient civilization, one that had mastered the quantum nature of reality itself. "We found their empty cities," he muttered, reading texts that made his scales crawl. "They're dormant machines. But we never found them. Until we reached that insignificant blue world called Earth." On the Thunderchild's bridge, Nora made a decision that would change the course of the war. "All ships, prepare for dimensional convergence on my mark. We're going to wake up our inheritance." The Shadow Fleet moved into position around key points in Zishian space. The hybrid crews felt it first, a resonance in their DNA, calling to machines that had slept for millions of years. As human quantum technology synchronized with the ancient structures, reality itself began to shift. Marcus stood at his station, his silver skin glowing brighter than ever. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel the connections forming, neural networks spanning galaxies, quantum computers that made their most advanced AI look primitive, and power sources that drew energy from the fabric of space itself. They didn't break us, he realized. They didn't even change us. Everything they did, the slavery, the experiments, the genetic manipulation, it all just helped us remember who we were. The Zishian Empire's worst nightmare was coming true. Their slaves weren't just breaking free, they were reclaiming the legacy of a civilization that had once spanned multiple dimensions. Every hybrid they had created in their genetic experiments had inadvertently strengthened the connection to this ancient heritage. Lieutenant Dex Orain led boarding parties onto Zishian command stations, but they weren't just fighting anymore. As the ancient technology awakened, their quantum-enhanced abilities grew stronger. They could see through time itself, watching as history unfolded in reverse, seeing how humanity had chosen to go dormant eons ago, seeding their DNA across countless species, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. In the medical bay, Voss watched the sensor readings with tears in his crystalline eyes. "My people have legends," he said softly. "Stories of the first ones, who shaped reality like artists shape clay. We never imagined, never dreamed. That they were us," Dr. Patel finished, understanding finally dawning. "Or rather, that we were them." The awakening couldn't be stopped. Across Zishian space, ancient machines hummed to life, recognizing the quantum signatures in human hybrid DNA. The Empire's greatest weapons proved useless against technology that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Emperor Vexthor watched from his palace as golden light erupted from beneath the surface of his homeworld. The machines his ancestors had tried to control were responding to their true master's return. In that moment, he understood that the Zishian Empire had never really been in control. "All this time," he hissed, "we thought we were the masters of evolution. But we were nothing more than caretakers, watching over powers we couldn't comprehend." On the Thunderchild's bridge, Captain Rhodes received messages from across the fleet. The ancient structures weren't just weapons or tools, they were keys to humanity's next evolution. The hybrid experiments hadn't created something new, they had reactivated something that had always been there, waiting in human DNA. "We're receiving signals," Hawthorne reported, his voice filled with awe. "Not just from this galaxy, from everywhere. The network is vast, interconnected. We weren't just a civilization, we were the civilization." As the truth unfolded, humanity faced a choice. They had awakened with power that could reshape reality itself. The question wasn't whether they would win the war, that was already decided. The question was what they would become now that they remembered their true nature. Marcus looked out at the stars, seeing them not just as lights, but as nodes in an infinite network that humanity had created eons ago. "We went to sleep," he said softly, "because we needed to grow, to learn, to understand power from the perspective of the powerless." The Liberation Fleet had become something far more than a military force. They were now the shepherds of humanity's reawakening, guardians of a legacy that would forever change the course of galactic history. On the bridge, Nora received a priority transmission from Admiral Chen of the Shadow Fleet Command. The Admiral's hologram appeared before her, his expression stern but satisfied. "Captain Rhodes, your next target is confirmed." The Nexus 7 data cores contained coordinates for something the Zexians called the Vault, a secure facility where they've been conducting genetic experiments on human hybrid children. Nora's hands clenched on her command chair. Location? Deep space, between the Orion and Perseus arms. Heavy defenses, but nothing the Thunderchild can't handle. We're sending you because of your personal connection to this mission. Nora unconsciously touched the silver markings on her neck, proof of her own hybrid heritage. Understood, Admiral. We'll get those kids out. As the Thunderchild prepared for its next jump, Marcus found himself in the ship's observation deck, staring at the stars. Lieutenant Orion joined him, now dressed in the formal black uniform of the Shadow Fleet. "Having second thoughts?" Orion asked. Marcus shook his head. "Just trying to understand. Why wait so long? Why let us suffer for centuries?" "Because we needed to be ready," Orion explained. "Not just militarily, but culturally. The old Earth was divided, fractured. The Zexians exploited those divisions, turned humans against each other. But their attempt to destroy us had the opposite effect, it united us like never before." He gestured to the stars. "Every ship in this fleet carries crews from all of Earth's old nations, working as one. We developed technology in secret, built hidden shipyards in dimensional pockets, and most importantly, we learned patience." On the bridge, Nora reviewed the assault plans for the vault. The facility's defenses were formidable, but she had something better than superior firepower, she had surprise. The Zexians still didn't understand the full extent of human technological advancement. "All hands, battle stations," she commanded. "Prepare for dimensional shift." The Thunderchild's engines hummed to life, but instead of entering conventional hyperspace, the massive ship simply vanished. When it reappeared, it was inside the vault's defense perimeter, its weapons already firing. The space around the facility erupted in chaos. Zexian warships scrambled to respond, but they were fighting an enemy that could appear and disappear at will, their weapons passing harmlessly through afterimages while real shots struck with devastating precision. Deep inside the vault, alarms blared as human strike teams phased through solid walls. They found what they were looking for, hundreds of hybrid children, kept in stasis pods for genetic experimentation. Each child represented the Zexians' greatest fear, the uncontrollable evolution of humanity. As the liberation of the vault progressed, Emperor Vexthor received the news with growing dread. It wasn't just the loss of a secret facility that terrified him, it was the realization that humanity had completely outmaneuvered them. Every counter-strategy, every contingency plan the Empire had prepared was based on fighting the humans they remembered from 3 centuries ago. But that humanity was gone, transformed by adversity into something far more dangerous. They didn't just want victory, they wanted to completely dismantle the system that had enslaved their people. And as the Shadow Fleet continued its advance, unstoppable and precise, the Emperor finally understood what his ancestors had failed to grasp: they hadn't broken humanity's spirit with their attacks. They had forged it into a weapon that would now tear their empire apart. The liberation of the vault had shattered the Zexian Empire's illusion of invulnerability, but it also revealed a truth that chilled even the hardened veterans of Earth's Shadow Fleet. Within the facility's secure databases, they discovered the true purpose behind the Empire's obsession with human hybrids. Captain Nora Rhodes stood in the Thunderchild's secure briefing room, surrounded by holographic displays showing genetic sequences. The rescued hybrid children slept safely in the medical bay, but their DNA told a story that made her blood boil. "They weren't just experimenting on us," Dr. Raj Patel explained, highlighting specific genetic markers. "They were trying to weaponize human adaptability. Every hybrid child in those pods showed signs of accelerated evolution." Marcus Jensen, now wearing the black uniform of a Shadow Fleet consultant, studied the displays with growing horror. The overseers always said we were dangerous. That our bloodlines were unstable. Unstable? Raj laughed bitterly. No. What they found terrifying was how stable these combinations were. Human DNA doesn't just accept alien genetic markers, it enhances them. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Commander Hawthorne's voice crackled over the intercom, "Captain, to the bridge. We're picking up distress signals from multiple sectors." On the bridge, Nora found her crew already at battle stations. The tactical display showed dozens of red dots appearing across known space, slave revolts breaking out on countless worlds as news of the human fleet's return spread. "The Zexians are responding with extreme force," Hawthorne reported grimly. "They're bombing their own colonies rather than risk losing them." Nora's silver markings pulsed with anger. "Deploy the fleet. Priority to colonies with confirmed hybrid populations. And get me a channel to Admiral Chen." The Admiral's hologram appeared, his expression grave. "You've seen the reports?" "Yes, sir. Request permission to implement Protocol Omega." There was a pause. Protocol Omega was their most closely guarded weapon, technological superiority pushed to its absolute limit. Chen nodded slowly. "Granted. Show them what humanity has become." Throughout the ship, hidden systems activated. The Thunderchild's hull began to shimmer, quantum fields twisting reality itself. Similar transformations occurred across the entire Shadow Fleet as humanity revealed its ultimate achievement. The ships didn't just vanish into dimensional pockets anymore, they began to split reality itself, existing in multiple spaces simultaneously. A single human vessel could now engage dozens of targets across vast distances, linked through quantum entanglement. In the Zeshian Imperial Palace, Emperor Vexthor watched in disbelief as his empire's military advantage crumbled. The same human ships appeared to be everywhere at once, striking with impossible coordination. "What manner of demons have they become?" he hissed. High General Skith, her scales pale with fear, could only shake her head. "They evolved beyond our comprehension. All those centuries we thought we were containing them. We were giving them time to surpass us," Vexthor finished. On a mining world designated XO-9, Lieutenant Dex Orion led a ground assault that demonstrated humanity's new capabilities. His strike team phased through solid matter, their quantum-enhanced armor allowing them to ignore conventional physics. They moved like ghosts through Zeshian defenses, freeing slaves and neutralizing overseers with surgical precision. Among the rescued was an elderly Lemurian scholar named Voss, his crystalline skin cracked from years of abuse. As Orion helped him to safety, Voss grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "You don't understand," the scholar wheezed. "The Zexians, their fear of humans goes deeper than you know. There are ruins, ancient sites that speak of." Before he could finish, the ground shook violently. The Zexians had activated their scorched earth protocols, preferring to destroy the planet rather than lose it. "Everyone to the extraction points," Orion commanded. "Movement in quantum shift, now." His team and the rescued slaves shifted between dimensions, avoiding the spreading destruction. As they materialized safely aboard waiting ships, Voss tried again to speak, but fell unconscious from the strain. Back on the Thunderchild, Marcus found himself working alongside Dr. Patel, helping to process and care for the constant stream of rescued slaves. Among them, he noticed a pattern, many bore markings or modifications similar to those found in the vault. They were doing it everywhere, he realized. Every colony, every mining world, they were all part of the same experiment. Dr. Patel nodded grimly. "And now we know why. Human hybrid DNA shows signs of what we're calling quantum resonance, the ability to naturally interact with multiple dimensions. The Zexians didn't just fear our adaptability, they feared what we might become." In her quarters, Captain Rhodes reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Zetian Empire was fracturing, its hold on power slipping as more colonies rebelled. But something about their desperate tactics suggested they were hiding an even darker secret. She called up the scanned data from the vault again, focusing on certain genetic markers that didn't make sense. The modifications weren't just about control or weaponization, they seemed designed to suppress something that already existed in human DNA. Computer, cross-reference these sequences with the ancient human genome database, she commanded. The results made her sit up straight. The markers weren't new at all, they were millions of years old, dormant genes that had always been part of human DNA. The Zexians hadn't been trying to create something new, they had been desperately trying to prevent something ancient from awakening.